Well, hello everyone, episode 14. We are super excited to be here today, like we always are. We have a very special guest and a very special topic because we celebrated Valentine's Day this week, and we want to make sure that in light of Valentine's Day, we talk about the acts of kindness that we are that we come up with or have to handle on daily basis when we are in the hospitality world. So I'm Michèle Kline with Kline Hospitality, and my co-host Stephanie Ledger with First Rate Hospitality. Stephanie, take it away.
Hi everyone. I hope everyone had a great day with Valentine's Day. And yes, celebrating acts of kindness this week too. And us in the hotel industry, like Michèle was saying, we do so many of that towards our guests. And I'm excited that we're going to have our guest, Kevin Clarke, on the show talking about one of his stories of acts of kindness. And a little bit of background is Kevin and I used to work together in New York, where we're always running around doing acts of kindness to the guests and even to employees on a day-to-day basis. So thank you, Kevin, for being on here today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And so with talking about our power of kindness, and so we have seen the typical items of delivering that champagne for guests that are maybe celebrating a special occasion, or utilizing your city resources if you're in an iconic city. And then, that lovely traditional rose petals, which in housekeeping we do not like when cleaning that up or on the sheets. But there's also two very other cute, unique items that we could be able to leave in the guest room as that just showing genuine care that they are staying with us.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that. So Kevin, do you want to share with us what that random act of kindness was and how it all went down, and hope that we can enlighten others to spread the love?
Absolutely. I have a great story, and this particular instance took place back in 2014. I was at a hotel in New York City. Stephanie and I were working together. And one of the markets, one of the areas that a repeat team that stayed with us at the hotel every year for many. And word one day towards the middle of the season that they had a member of their front office team, a woman who actually worked in their accounting department for upwards of 20 years at that point. Had been given a terminal diagnosis of cancer. And she was bound and determined to finish out the season with her work colleagues, with her work family. And in turn, the team wanted to provide some members of their front office staff, their families, and then this woman and her family with a nice getaway to New York City to celebrate an amazing career with the team and an amazing life and an amazing woman. So the season finished early for that team, as it usually does, because they were not in the playoffs that year. So they came up to New York City in the early part of the spring, and we helped out with some rates and upgraded everyone to some beautiful park-facing suites. And from there, literally did not pull out a single stop. Champagne upon arrival, horse and carriage rides throughout the city. Assisted with transportation to shows and VIP reservations for dinner. And you could just see throughout the entire weekend how genuinely happy not only this woman, but her friends, her family, her work family were to be celebrating her for that weekend. It was just a beautiful time for them during a very tumultuous time in their lives. And the feedback was amazing. There were tears as they were departing the hotel come Monday morning, and tears of happiness, of course. And you could just see how successful the weekend was from creating that memory and instilling happiness really in all that were involved. So, a couple of weeks later, when we ultimately did hear back from the team that everything was wonderful and that everyone had a great time, we were saddened to hear a few weeks later that she did ultimately pass comfortably at home with her family. But we were very pleased that we were able to play a very small part in a beautiful final few pages of her life. And now that those that she left behind here have some really great memories of some final days together. So I think being part of hospitality, it's always a business transaction that keeps the lights on and keeps things moving forward. But it's really those little touches of magic that keep all of us in this industry. So for me, looking back on my hotel career, that's definitely up there with my favorite.
Wow, what an amazing story. And how you were talking about with the champagne or the city events, and a lot of that is also true of just utilizing your vendors and your connections. It doesn't cost much for, certain random acts of kindness, and people think, oh, this is going to be costing millions or hundreds of dollars on the budget. But being able to utilize your connections and things that you already have on in the hotel, and being able to display those acts of kindness towards your guests randomly as well, not just as an amenity because something went wrong.
That's also when you can get a little creative, have a little fun, but then also, if you're receptive to helping out your industry and in your neighborhood and vendors around you, when the time comes that you have to call in a favor, people will answer your phone call and really help to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I want to touch on a point that you made, Kevin, where you mentioned how, we make magic happen in the hospitality industry and how sometimes it feels like a transaction to keep the lights on. And if we look at the way the labor market is today and how we have a lot of team members in our industry that are super tired by now or feel like they probably were not taken care of the way they would have expected to be taken care of with years of tenure within a specific brand during 2020, for example, or those new team members that are joining the industry that come from other industries, and how in addition to all of this, the burn factor in our industry exists. Having that comprehension or that awareness that in hospitality we create memorable experiences and we are part of those experiences, part of making those experiences happen, like your story. That was the last experience that entire team had together to celebrate one of their team members' life.
Right.
And how sometimes we forget that we as team members, we are part of that magic.
Yeah.
We're part of creating that moment and how special that is. And I think that from a training perspective, sometimes we forget to inject this little piece or this little nugget into training so people can have a different perspective.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful point. And to take it a step further, in the hospitality industry, we are to be, we're not servants, but we are there to serve our guests and our clients. So, we're not there to be transactional. We are there to create this magic. And you should consider yourself lucky in a lot of levels that you have the ability to do that. I think of friends of mine, former colleagues of mine that are in other professions, and they're very typecast. They walk a very set rope where they have a job, they have a function, and that's what they do. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Industries are built around that. We're so lucky to be in an industry, to be in an environment where we get to welcome people into our homes, into our lives, into our networks, and really make magical things happen for them. Experiences that they'll never forget. And to me, that's what has kept me in this industry for so long. And to anyone who has the burnout factor, anyone who's new to the industry and says, wow, this might not be what I thought it was, I would encourage them and instill in them and invite them to bring that passion and to bring that love for service back into the industry, because to me, that's what's missing. It's not necessarily a labor market. It's not a P&L factor. it might just be it's been a long 2 years, and it's time to bring back that magic. And Stephanie brought this up a couple minutes ago, but short of discounting some room rate that weekend, that didn't cost the hotel more than a couple $100 worth of champagne and some, chocolate covered pretzels upon arrival.
Mm-hmm.
The cost there was the time and the effort. Not that it was that much that we put into it, but the genuine care and the attention and the service that we provided. That's where the magic was. And that was not just me. I happened to be the one sending in emails and resumes, but it was the whole team of hotel that rallied behind this one common cause to make it an amazing experience. And that's what's really beautiful about this industry.
That's so inspiring.
Yes, absolutely. And it's also too the team effort as well as, being able to rely on front desk or your housekeeping or your food and beverage to coming together as a team to taking care of the guests, and not just saying, oh, I'm going to be the one that does this, or this is what our department's going to be, but as a team. And also too, it's not just about, the luxury segment caliber of doing these above and beyond. There's a lot of other acts of kindness that you can be able to do at any caliber of a hotel, and doing those wow moments for the guest.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I remember
absolutely.
I was working at a pizzeria in my hometown. It was my first job ever. I was like 14 or 15 years old. And there was this old woman, she was shut in, and she would order pizza Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if it was like 5 o'clock on a Friday and no one had heard from Miss Greenberg yet, like, you'd call the house and be like, hey, you okay? Is everything right? Blah, blah, blah. And if someone needed something from CVS or something along the way, so a driver would stop and pick it up for her. So
that is so cool.
Again, it's not just the luxury hotels that can create magic and can have connections with their community and their guests or their customers. It's anyone that's called to be in this amazing industry that can have an impact on someone's life and just make such an amazing connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So on the same line of, it doesn't necessarily need to be in a luxury environment. It could be in any service environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
How it doesn't necessarily need to be the one team member that is guest facing.
Yes.
Right. That is providing that service directly. I have a memory of a situation at a hotel where we had 3 different towers. Each tower had their own linen chute, but there was one of the towers that had the bigger room. So by the time the carts were full in each one of the linen chutes, everything would be deployed into this one big room. And then from there was pick up from laundry. And we get a call from the front desk saying guest in such room already checked out, and they just realized that their son, they had a 2 or 3-year-old son, had lost their teddy bear. And that's probably one of the worst calls you can get from, in housekeeping, because now you have to go dig. And we did because it was that important for that little boy. They started driving out and they drove back to the resort to make sure that they checked in and see if. So anyway, the little boy was waiting. At the end, we took hours, literally hours, to go through the larger linen room. But in the evening, like 7 o'clock or so, when the laundry was about to come and do their pickup, we had an external laundry facility. I kind of called it out like, okay, guys, this is it. We can call it a night and hope that the laundry facility finds it. And all of a sudden, this guy pulls from underneath one pile that we had not finished checking yet, the teddy bear. Wow. So that family, that they were still driving home, receiving that phone call from us saying, we found the teddy bear. And we put the mom who was receiving the call in contact with a team member that actually found it, just to make it that more memorable. Because I thought it was important for the team member as well to feel what it feels to have that victory moment, right? So all the travel, you and everyone else who we were all there digging, what we felt, then it was just that precious moment of saying we did it. And this was our random act of kindness. And it was just beautiful. And to this day, the team still remembers.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great story. But then also too, it's you have these great ideas and steps in place for having those acts of kindness, or making sure, if, like you said, if something comes up with needing to find a teddy bear in linen, but then sometimes it may get dropped on the ball with the different team members. And I'm sure that, Kevin, you may have been like, okay, we're going to set up this amenity for a VIP that is coming. Their preference is red wine, and then somehow it doesn't get delivered, or white wine gets delivered. And now that magic is no longer there either. And then we start coming up with those WTF moments.
I was working a movie junket years ago. This was I think before my heartwarming story. And the movie had to do, without giving any names, but an astronaut that was stuck on a planet far, far away, and he figured out how to grow potatoes. So the movie studio wanted to give all of their arriving guests a very unique amenity, and it was a dirty brown potato. So, I marked on the interim dining amenity sheet that everyone within this group was to receive a potato, and it was supposed to be in a plate, and it was, to be presented professionally. So when it was copied from my quote of everyone within the group to receive ... The telephone sales agent, the TSA agent from interim dining, just wrote everyone to receive a potato. So all arriving guests at the hotel that night received a potato as an amenity on a plate, because nobody saw the right words or the right dictation, the right verbiage. So you can imagine the absolute scramble, the Amber Alert that went out to every manager in the building to grab your key, to just go into room to get these potatoes out of random rooms.
We're on a potato hunt.
Exactly. It's a potato famine. So yeah, things can definitely fall through the cracks. Again, it's that team rallying behind, and there were only a few guests that walked in and were like, WTF. And it all worked out.
I can only imagine your executive chef at that point, probably French, grabbing his hair and saying, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah. Yeah. A few more choice words in between, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, Michèle, do you have any other WTF moments of amenity deliveries gone wrong?
Probably, yeah. Oof, I'm not prepared. Let me think through this.
Well, one I could definitely think, like a nice gesture, that could also too go a long way, is when we're also having a guest at the hotel that they ended up forgetting their passport in the safe. And so here the guest is trying to scramble, but we made sure to making sure that we let the guest know that we're going to send a car to being able to deliver the passport. Also too, they were also worried that they were now going to be not being able to check in and be able to get onto the flight. So through our connections with the airline, that we were able to rest assured that the time that we were able to give them their passport, that he was going to be able to get on. And that same thing is just utilizing our connections, and also making sure that the guest was just feeling secure that the passport was going to be able to be delivered to him, and not having to scramble. And we've all been there, of calling the airline and you're waiting on hold and you don't know how long the wait is going to be. But those things too, of just being like, oh no, we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we're going to do this for you before the guest is even prompted either.
Yeah, very interesting. So I just thought of another random act of kindness that went south, like really, really south. And it went south very, very quickly. We had in our books a reservation for a couple. And when the guy makes the reservation, he explained that it was a very special weekend, that he was going with his, I think it was like 5 years that they had been together. Anyway, long story short, he was going to propose. So when they show up at the desk to check in, our team was already ready to be able to, make sure that everything was fantastic and the room was perfect and so on and so forth. They had dinner reservations. So far, everything is fabulous. During the day before dinner is when he was supposed to have his thing and propose. This was in, I'm just going to say the location, Sedona in Arizona, which is very cool. They were going to go hiking and this was going to be super special, outdoors and so on. So when they come back for dinner, apparently she had turned him away. Like they were still together at dinner, but she wasn't prepared for marriage and committing to say yes, right? So when our server comes in, the server was prepared to deliver champagne at the table and, have a special toast done with executive chef that was coming in and so on. And the gentleman's eyes were terrifying. And the team couldn't really figure out what was going on until the hostess, who was the one who saw them walk in, and as she saw them walk in from the parking area, she could see that, she kind of picked up on a few signs, like they're not holding hands, or like there's no ring on her finger, what's going on? So when she saw it go down, and this was like her telling the story, right? She immediately stepped into when server starts, coming out with the champagne and everything else, and chef was gonna join the table and kind of like trying to intercept them. The lady, who was the one who said no, saw the whole thing go down. The guy saw the whole thing go down, but there was, this very amazing, I have to say, hostess who was able to smooth things over, but it was very evident to everyone what had just happened. So the rest of the evening, to describe it in any way, it was very, very awkward. So yeah, that was a random act of kindness going south.
Yikes. Well, this was great being able to talk about these stories. Thank you so much, Kevin, to being able to join us here on WTF Walk the Floors. So tell us a little bit and our viewers about what you do and where they could be able to connect with you.
Absolutely. So I did officially leave the hotel industry in November of 2019 to join on at a travel agency, Spear Travel Group. And since then have started a nice little offshoot of the business that deals specifically with romance travel. So we have a nice header called Better Together Travel, where we help wedding planners or recently engaged couples with all of their romance travel needs. So very similar to a
making
service
sure
that
they are engaged at that
exactly
point.
first to make sure they're engaged, and then we help them with all of their hotel room blocks, honeymoons, destination weddings, bachelorette, essentially from a travel procurement and sourcing solution perspective. So I'm on LinkedIn, can be reached at kevin@speartravelgroup.com, and would be happy to make any connections as needed.
Perfect.
That's fantastic, Kevin. What a great resource for this week specifically. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all next week for number 15. Wow.
Fantastic having you all still on the other side. And thank you, Kevin, so much for sharing your stories. Thanks, Stephanie, as always. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.